Hey everyone, welcome to ReBloom, the podcast where we explore the power of change, rediscovery, and living with intention.
That's right. We're your hosts, Lori and Jamie, two friends who really love a good story about transformation.
In each podcast, we're going to chat with inspiring guests who've made bold pivots in their lives or careers. They've let go of what no longer served them to embrace something more authentic, joyful, and true to who they really are.
And the best part, many of them reconnect with passions or dreams they discovered as kids. It's about finding the seeds planted long ago and letting them bloom again.
So if you're ready for real conversations about reinvention, purpose, and following your creative heart, you're in the right place.
Let's dive in and see what it takes to rebloom. Jamie, wasn't it wonderful talking to our friend Diane today?
Oh my gosh. Wait till you hear Diane's story. I mean, one of the things that is so amazing when we have these conversations is you hear a journey, but then you hear just this pure joy like you had when you were a child that just comes out of every pore of someone. And Diane, oh my God, I'm just getting chills thinking about our conversation because it was incredible hearing about her experience in her residency in France. And
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the culmination of things she's been working towards over the last few years. I've been watching as she's been blossoming, and I think that was just one more piece of the puzzle to just really light her up. And so hearing her story, I think our listeners are going to really love it.
You're going to love it. Not only is Diane a beautiful artist, she has rebloomed in the most beautiful ways. Enjoy, everyone. Well, hello. We are going to have an awesome conversation today. Hi, Lori.
Hey, James. I'm excited about today because we're interviewing a longtime friend of mine. Well, not a super long time, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
And you know her as well. So
I do.
Do you want to do the intro?
I do. Well, it's rare that you and I have both met our guest, but
Right.
you were so kind to invite me to Richwood on the River last fall, where I met the incredible Diane Kappa, who is amazing. And she's this brilliant artist. And I watched her create these just beautiful flowers, and we had great fun and great conversation. And so we cannot wait to hear about her wonderful art journey and the pivots that she's had along the way. And hello, Diane. How are you?
Hi. It's so good to see you guys.
Hello, friend.
Hello. We
Hello.
wish we would. Diane lives on the other side of the country, so we don't get to see her very much. Where do you hail from now, Diane?
Seattle.
Seattle.
And it's really cold here.
I was just out that way. And
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
in fact, Diane had to loan me a coat when I went to teach out that way last year. Little did I know that you need a coat when you're in the Pacific Northwest.
yes.
Yeah, she came with like this cute summer clothes because it was nice and hot. And I'm like, you brought a jacket, right? Because at night it's a different story.
Yeah. Well, I was just down in Charleston and it was 90 some, and I'm like, this is horrible. I mean, I love Charleston and I was with the baby, but I was like, oh my God, I need cool. And I'm wearing a wool sweater today in Ohio. So yeah, it's pretty normal. Yeah. Pretty normal weather, but well, so you're in Seattle. Tell us a little bit about your art journey. Like, where have you always been an artist when you...
Can I say something
go
really
ahead.
quick before
Go.
you jump in?
Go.
I just want to say that you're a great candidate for this because I've just been watching you rebloom over the last, I don't know how many years, maybe.
Since you've known me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
you came to my France retreat in, I don't know what year that was.
2018, 2019.
That sounds about right. But I've just been watching it happen. So hearing your story will be really fun. So take us back to as far as you want to go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have to start with my mom because she was an artist. And so daughter of an artist, and she eventually became my art teacher when I got to high school. So whether I wanted to focus on art or not, it was just always in my life. And it's funny because as I think back to when I was a kid, you know, people remember like they've been drawing since 5 or 6 or whatever. And I mean, I did win a poster contest in first grade. I do remember that.
There we go.
But really, I think it was just being around art and artists. My mom went to college at Mount St. Joe in Cincinnati.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And she took my sister and I to school with her back in the day. When she would have, like, I remember going in and she'd go to the photocopier and my sister and I would be like, how much longer do we have? You know, she's doing some research for art papers and such. But she also ran Studio San Giuseppe, which was the college gallery. So every Sunday, or whenever they had openings, my sister and I were always at those gallery openings. And because my dad would typically be working, he was a fireman. And so my sister and I would be at the gallery, and my mom, they had these classrooms down the hall. My mom would shove us in a classroom and say, you know, just stay quiet. And I was always the teacher, and my sister was always the troubling student. But it was, thinking back at that time, I was like, there were 2 rooms that I specifically remember, and one was full of looms, and the other one was full of tables and paints, and everything smelled of turpentine and art supplies, right? Yeah. And to be in those, to hang out in those rooms unsupervised, like just to kind of like be a little nosy as a kid, I think that really was an important time for me. So anyway, so my mom was a huge influence, and we got art supplies for every holiday, whether we wanted them or not. And then my grandma, who will be 97 this 4th of July.
Wow.
She says she's not creative, but she's a huge quilter, and she taught me to sew as a kid. And she's my biggest fan now. So if anybody follows me on Facebook, typically my grandma will comment, I love you, or I love your work, because she is on Facebook. So there's always been creativity in my life. Let's see. When I was in high school, I wanted to go to college to be a painter. This, I think, will be interesting for your listeners. So my mom, being an artist and knowing how difficult it is to be a fine artist and to make a living, she sort of sat me down and encouraged me to go into something a bit more commercial. So I went to school for fashion design. Mm-hmm. When I was in college, I went to the University of Cincinnati, and this will date me. They had just started using CAD to do textile design. So for anybody out there who knows textile design, back in the day, we would paint acetate sheets from a photocopier to do your colorways and stuff. And then for a salesman sample, you cut out the icon and you tape the acetate colored thing on the sweatshirt. So they were just starting to do CAD design then. So I was sort of a guinea pig for a student. So that's when I was introduced to pattern design and textiles.
Wow. So you started pursuing art, obviously, in college. And
yeah.
An artistic career, I should say.
And in high school, I was really into art. I loved to draw. And my mom taught a class called Applied Arts, I think. So we did cloisonne, we did batik, we did printmaking. So I was exposed to all sorts of art.
Yeah. Did you get into the fashion industry?
I did. Uh-huh. I worked for Lane Bryant right out of school for a year. And then I moved to Seattle in 1996. And my BFF, Emily, who is now my next door neighbor, she recruited me to move out to Seattle. Lori knows Emily.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. So she recruited me to Seattle. I worked for a small local company for 6 months, and then I got a job with Nordstrom, and I was at Nordstrom for 11 years.
Wonderful.
So definitely did my time in the corporate world.
Okay. And so were you doing art and fashion with them, or what were you doing with them?
Pattern design. So designing kids wear, and then eventually I worked in a department which was sort of like in-house freelance. So when the men's department needed help, I went and worked in the men's department developing patterns for menswear. When the high-end women's needed help, I went there. When juniors needed help, I went there. So Lori always describes herself as a chameleon, and that's kind of what I was, and that's what they wanted me to be, was to switch my style based on where I was in the company.
So I'm wondering, your grandmother was into quilting, so that's very pattern oriented. Was your mom also, like, I still see a thread of your love of pattern in the work that you're doing now. So it seems like that has been always present. So I'm just curious about that.
She, she went through stages of different art, like most artists do. So she went through a flower phase where she did flowers for a long time. And then she went through trees and a water phase with rocks and water. So pattern in nature, I would say.
Interesting.
And I hadn't even really thought about that, Lori, because now when I'm thinking of some of my favorite paintings of hers, they're very detailed, and there's pattern within the leaves and pattern within the bark and pattern within the water. So
who does that remind me of?
Yeah, I'm like, that's interesting. I haven't really thought of it. So
that's interesting. So you pivoted from Nordstrom. Did you, what was it fulfilling? You wanted something else? What was the...
It was really hard to work in the apparel industry. And I was fortunate to have some really great bosses along the way. And so at one point, I just felt like it was great. I was being creative. I was able to create patterns, but I was always creating patterns to fit whatever the trend was. So at one point, I approached my boss and said, what do you think if I work 4 10-hour days and take Fridays off? And, you don't know till you ask. This is my theory on everything. You ask.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll stay available. So if there's an emergency, I'll come in. I'll check my email. And she said, well, let's do a 1-month test. And then it ended up going on like that for a couple years. And so on that Friday that I had off, I would paint silk. So I'd wake up and I started painting yards and yards of silk and making silk pillows, and then going to fairs and selling my silk pillows. And so, but eventually my husband and we both loved to travel, and we wanted to live overseas longer. Like, we wanted to live somewhere that we felt part of the community. So we didn't feel so much like tourists.
Okay.
So we didn't tell anybody that was our goal. So when we sprung it on our parents and our friends, they're like, wow, where did this come from? But for like 5 years, we were saving our money and making all of our decisions were based off of an end date when we were going to move. So in 2008 was the first time I'd like to say that I've rebloomed, because we both quit our jobs and we moved to Budapest, Hungary.
Wow.
Okay. Now, what made you go there?
Bloom.
That's huge. Hello, I'm going to put a pin in a map. And here's what made you think of Budapest, Hungary? Why?
Well, we'd been traveling around Europe, and Hungary wasn't and still isn't on the euro. So it was a bit cheaper to move to for us. And then location wise, it's kind of in the middle of Europe, and we have very close friends in Estonia, and we had been to Croatia, and then we'd been to Western Europe. And so this was sort of a very nice central location, so we could hop on a plane and go anywhere from there. And then the other thing is Hungary has amazing folk arts.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to different villages within the country, and they have a completely different style of embroidery and a different flower that they represent in their crafts. And the folk arts just blew me away.
It sounds dreamy.
Yeah. And you can still, I think, see a Hungarian influence a lot of times in my work, just because it really it impacted my life on so many levels.
How long were you there?
Yeah.
How long did you live there?
4 years.
4
years. Is that longer than you anticipated?
We said 3 to 5.
Okay.
Or that's what we told ourselves. We didn't really tell our family that.
Yeah.
But to ourselves it was 3 to 5. And it was hard to come back. It was kind of a big decision. It was kind of strange to come back to Seattle.
Yeah,
but it was good, and it was a great time in my life to return. And I absolutely loved living in a different country.
That's incredible.
That sounds amazing. Now, did you have to learn the language and everything to be part of the community like you wanted?
I really tried, but their language is very, very difficult. It doesn't sound like Spanish or English or French or even Italian or German. It's in a language category of its own with Finnish and Estonian. And so I tried, but so the short answer is no.
But you were able to form a community and make friends there?
Yeah, I mean, I met a ton of artists, and most of them spoke English. And then I just, there's something about living in a foreign country. For me, I felt anonymous in a really healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was so easy to be me because nobody knew me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I feel that way now once I hit 50, I kind of feel that way again.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to have that taste when I was younger, to just be able to I just didn't really care because nobody knew who I was.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
So you're over there, you're inspired by the folk art. What else is happening to you artistically while you're there for 4 years?
So my goal was to start up a business developing home textiles, pillows, and kitchen linens, and to have them be made in the Hungarian countryside, because they do great embroidery and lace and felt work, but with an American point of view, right? Because I wanted to sell it back to the American market. And, the part of being kind of naive and open to everything, I was so naive. Not knowing the language, I was able to overcome, because you can hire people to help you navigate that. But I remember going into one village, and they're like, well, this is the tulip that we embroider, so we'll embroider this on your textiles. And I'm like, but I want different flowers and paisleys and shapes. And it was like, no, we just do the red tulip. So at that time, I was starting to think, okay, how do I make money? Because I'm spending a lot of money trying to start this business up. And so I reached out to an agent in New York who sells artwork to apparel companies and stuff. It's not a licensing agent, it's an art agent. So I reached out to him, and we started working together. And that has been a really great relationship. I still work for him now. And so that sort of got me doing some freelance work and creating some patterns of my own. And then I eventually learned about licensing. But I kind of want to fast forward to my next ReBloom, because I feel like I'm blooming right now.
Yes, you are
I
indeed.
mean, you can, if your viewers could only see my smile and my face, I seriously feel like I'm a sun right now.
I could see it in all of the reels that you were posting. I'm like, she is having
a moment.
And I totally understand because I was there also. So share.
Yeah.
So I had wanted to apply to this residency called Chateau Orcavo.
Can you tell our non-arty listeners, our non-artist listeners, what a residency is for you? What does that mean?
Okay, so I feel like people get retreats and residencies confused. So a retreat, you typically have an instructor and it's a guided project, right? So you're going to make birds, or you're going to go paint, or you're going to go block print. A residency is self-directed. So you go somewhere, you bring your art supplies, and you have a project you've given yourself, and you're not my experience was I wasn't collaborating or being taught by anybody else. I came with a project. So it gave me 2 weeks to focus on building a body of artwork that I've been dreaming about.
Right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yep. It does. So you go to France.
Yeah.
Art supplies in tow.
First off, I did not think I would get in.
And you got in?
I got in, and I got in the day Lori was getting on the plane to leave to start her residency there.
Oh,
how
wow.
fun is that? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I just got back. I was there basically the month of April, 2 weeks in at the chateau, and then I stayed and did some traveling.
Okay, so I want to ask the question, before you got on the plane, or as you were dreaming about it, as you were preparing for it, what was the dream?
I think I had an idea of the work I wanted to develop, but I think to have quiet. And I have been following the chateau on Instagram, which is maybe good or bad. I'm not sure which, because at first I was like, maybe I shouldn't be watching all their reels of the experiences of other artists because my experience is going to be different. But then I was like, no, I can't stop watching.
Yeah, I was the same.
Yeah. So I really wasn't sure. I did think I was going to create a tremendous amount of work, and I did only a fraction of what I thought I would get done. And then I thought I'd meet, a couple really cool people. That was kind of it.
Yeah.
But it just surpassed all my expectations. 2 weeks of it sounds so hokey, but it was truly a magical experience. And to have 2 weeks of to be able to focus on making art and no interruptions. I didn't have to walk the dog. I don't have kids, so I don't have as many interruptions as someone who has kids at home. But I didn't have to get up and walk the dog. I didn't have to make my own lunch. And then, I never realized how much time I think about what's for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there you have a chef just lay it out in front of you.
Yes. Nobody's asking what's for dinner. I don't have to say, hey, can you make me a cheeseburger? A cheeseburger just shows up. So just all of the free space in my head. And going in April, things with the tariffs and stuff had just kind of really started to ramp up. And it was really nice to kind of escape all of that. I was reading headlines of what was trying to stay up to date with all the political stuff happening here. And then eventually I just told Steve, my husband, and said, I'm not looking at the news. Just let me know if there's something that I really need to know about. And so I completely escaped. And this town, they say that there's a population of 70, but I only saw 3 people that I had not met. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. So you're there, you're immersed. Is the project that you thought, so you, I know you said you didn't create as much as you thought, but you had an idea.
hmm And yeah, so I have been working on block prints. I kind of been dabbling in block printing for forever. I mean, at Lori's retreats, block printing has always ended up creeping in here and there.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
all of my work, it kind of creeps in. And I think, like at the beginning of COVID, I did a deep dive into block printing because we had time. I like to say that something pivotal happens in my life when either life kicks me out of my lane or it gives me space to think whether I want it or not.
Yeah.
So, for instance, COVID did this. And then kind of today, with all the tariff uncertainty, businesses slowed down. And so it's all terrifying and personally, I'm talking about this. It's terrifying and exciting all at once. Like
Yeah.
I worry about my licensing business and I have this time to continue the work that I started at the chateau. And so I'm really, I feel invincible with art right now. I don't know if that's the right word, but like I feel solid. Does it
Yeah.
sound weird?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
I
Yeah.
think I've been watching over the last several years of you just coming closer and closer, being in your zone, and then seeing what you were making in France. I'm like, oh yeah,
It was
she's
incredible.
she's going crazy now with what she's been wanting to do, and it's so fun to watch.
And you know, I didn't get as much done as I thought I would, but it doesn't mean that I didn't work 100% of the time.
Right.
Because I ended up just doing these very intense large block prints that took a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I would have never taken that time and done that here in Seattle just because there's so many things that interrupt. I don't ever have 8 hours or 5 hours at a time to sit down and like focus on a project. So
that's what a residency gives you permission to do.
Yeah.
It gives you permission to spend all day long in the studio and just, that's what's
Create.
so dreamy about it.
And in this particular residency, I mean, the chateau, the staff, the chef, everything was perfect. But what made it even more perfect were the other artists that I met. So there were 24 or 25 of us, artists, writers, poets, musicians. And I made an effort every night to sit at a different place at a table so that I could talk. I got a chance to talk to everybody at dinner. And I really feel like we all connected on some level. And so, and that encouragement, and I mean, I felt so supported artistically. Like I was surrounded by 24 Loris.
That's amazing, though. That's amazing. Yeah. So the work that you created, how does it differ from what you were doing? What is it?
Okay, so there's 3 things that I have kind of I thought a lot about at the chateau on why am I drawn to this. And there's 3 things that I love. Texture. So I'm doing block printing, but then I'm adding hand stitching on top of it. And so it's that sewing piece, right? It's the grandma quilting. It's the fashion design background. But I like something about puncturing paper. So I love stitching paper. So I'm doing the block print, and then I'm adding stitching on top of it. So texture is important. Pattern is obviously important. So I'm sort of inspired by the collection I'm working on right now. It's like, if you think of old wallpaper that's tattered and it's kind of falling apart, you see other layers and other layers.
Yes.
I love that visual look of of kind of a history of a wall, so pattern, and then process. And I've really thought a lot about process. I love art that has process. So silk painting, which I did for over 10 years, has a lot of process. Like you wash your silk, you treat the silk, you stretch the silk, you put your resist on, you paint the silk, then you got to set the dyes. And block printing is the same. I sand my linoleum, I paint the linoleum, I carve the linoleum, and then I print it, and now I'm stitching it. So I love things that have multiple steps. So texture, process, and pattern are my, it gets me excited.
Yeah. I think about the pieces you did when we were at Les Soeurs, and they had all of those things in them.
Totally.
She did the most beautiful pieces that had block printing and stitching and old photographs and pattern, and they're beautiful pieces.
Yeah. And I don't like glue and tape, so everything is stitched.
I love that.
So
I love that.
I just don't like glue and tape because you don't know what it's going to do later.
Yeah, true.
Not that I'm thinking archival, because really it only needs to be as archival as my life.
But it could still fall apart. I mean, it still absolutely could. So, it's interesting. I've got a question about you doing all of these things. Okay, no, wait, I totally lost my thought. I had a really good question. This is what happens when we get older too. I had a really good one. All right.
While you're thinking, I'll talk about what I wanted to mention. So you are also teaching block printing. So that's been another little pivot or ReBloom that you've been doing over the last few years as well.
Yes. And I've taught at a college level. I've taught textile design, and I've taught portfolio design. And I enjoy the teaching part of college, but I hate the grading part. I am not, I don't like students to turn their work in. And so I found kind of the perfect place for me. So last February, after making a commitment verbally to a bunch of artists that I was going to attack block printing classes in my home studio, I started teaching. So that was February 24. And now I teach 2 to 3 days a month. And I teach a basic block printing class. And then I teach some beyond the basics and block printing on fabric. And I adore it. I love having people in my space. I love the beginning block printing class because a lot of times people maybe block printed back in high school, but a lot of times they'll say, oh, I'm not creative. I'm looking for a hobby. And so it's so great to see someone get excited when they're carving their block. They're not 100% sure how this is going to turn out. And then they bake the first print and they're like, oh my gosh, I did a block print. I'm like, yeah. So I love seeing that excitement of that creative voice wakening up in them. So
yeah, it's the best. Well, your studio is a bit of a ReBloom as well, because you, like I was talking to you in the very beginning stages of that, and now you have this beautiful space. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So Steve and I moved into this house in 2018, and the house is 850 square feet. And then it has a detached garage, which was about 650 square feet. And our goal was always to remodel the garage. And so that's where I'm sitting right now. And it is 650 square feet of my studio. We have a little sauna and a kitchenette, and there are windows everywhere. So it's really bright and happy. And so this is where my classes are. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's such a pretty space.
It is.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Let's take a quick minute and thank our amazing sponsors. Our podcast is proudly brought to you today by Jet Creative and Urban Stems. Jet Creative is a women-owned marketing firm committed to community and empowerment since 2013. Are you ready to rebloom and build a website or start a podcast? Visit jetcreative.com/podcast to kickstart your journey. They will help you bloom in ways you never imagined. And bonus, our listeners get an exclusive discount when you mention ReBloom. And a huge thanks to Urban Stems, your go-to and our go-to source for fresh, gorgeous bouquets and gifts delivered coast to coast. Use Bloom Big 20 and save 20% on your next order. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at ReBloom Podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to you for joining us today. Okay, so I remember my question. I was thinking, as you have been just bubbling over and just so excited about this residency, do you feel that when you create just for the joy of it, like you were doing in France, that there's a difference? I mean, I feel when you talk about it, and that's what I know when I create my florals, I do it just for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so fun. And that, to me, that's like, I love it. I'm not doing it for anybody else. And I mean, I do want them to do something, but it's so freeing. I'm just sort of curious about that versus some of the other things that were more deliberate that you had to do.
Maybe. I think though, yes, I totally enjoy what I'm doing. And I don't want to say I don't care if anybody else likes it, because I do care.
Yeah.
But I think I've always, there's so many things that happened during the residency. I mean, you're going to think this is really funny, maybe. At one point, there was a group of us sitting outside, and I can't remember how the topic came up, but we were talking about being artists. And I made some comment of, well, I'm not really an artist. And they were like, huh? And I said, well, I'm not, I'm an artist, but like in my day job, I'm drawing gnomes and Santas and, I'm not like a fine artist. And they were lost. They're like, okay, we need to have an intervention with you because we've seen what you're working on upstairs. And I don't know what you call that if that's not the work of an artist.
Right.
So there was this huge intervention, right? So I think that hearing this from all these amazing artists, right? Like, you're crazy. I think something happened to where I began to feel like I could break the rules that I had already set for myself. So, and like artistic rules, like in block printing, like you want a perfect reproduction. Kind of thinking from the purist of a printmaker. And once I had this intervention with these now very good friends of mine, something in me just said, well, I don't have to do a perfect reproduction, and I can poke holes in the paper, and I can rip it, and I can cut it, and I can tear it, and that then kind of freed me of whatever box I was putting myself in as a block printer.
Yay.
Yeah. Yay.
I don't know.
It does. It's
well,
like,
I saw that when we were in San Miguel, where we were talking about things that you had been pitching to one of our client, we have this client jointly, well, separately, but jointly.
Yeah.
And you were making these beautiful things. And I said, why don't you show that? So I think you had been separating maybe the work that you do for licensing to make money from the work that you do that just brings you joy and lights you up.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've been on this journey. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I've been watching you do things more and more that just purely light you up and you're just excited about.
I am really excited. Yeah. And if I could do anything all day long, sorry, Jamie.
No, that's okay.
I would just carve I would just do block printing all day long and stitch paper. Like, that's all I want to do.
Well, then I think something magical comes from that, and
Yeah.
you won't know what it is right now.
Yeah.
But so many guests of ours have said that they just started doing something they were called to do by their heart.
Right.
And then it ended up evolving into something that they never ever dreamed could happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think where I was going with that question too is it's just all of us exploring our creative freedoms. We do care what other people think, but when I'm just allowed to be free and to do what I want creatively, it's not only fulfilling in the moment, but it's fulfilling. I mean, I create a better body of work too. I create things that, and that's what I see in what you've done since you've been in. I mean, it's just this freedom, this whole. I'm like, what happened over there? Yeah,
I rebloomed.
you rebloomed.
Or I've started coming out of my cocoon.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've rebloomed yet. I feel like it's all. I'm in the middle of that process, right?
Well, I think when
You're
we put
blooming.
you're blooming, I think whether we have to professionally or however we do it, we put boundaries up or we put parameters to your point. And when we break the rules, that's when we really start to break through and see some differences. And 3 cheers for the rule breakers. I mean, I love them. Yeah.
And sometimes they're self-imposed rules like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do things because we think that's what we're supposed to because of comments somebody made along the way or whatever. But we also put a lot of rules on ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's nice when you start breaking those and, you get closer to who you really, really are inside.
Yeah. I keep trying to, the energy that I still have from the residency, I don't want to let it go. I want to keep it like that fire in me. I want to keep that flame really big. And so I've been trying to look at things, doing daily habits and really trying to engage in the local printmaking community here in Seattle. I'm trying to just keep that sense of creative community going that I had at the residency. And then teaching more block printing classes because I really want to ignite people.
Yeah.
I want to pass a little bit of what I feel. If I can get somebody to have that excitement about themselves. Yeah.
That's the best thing about teaching. It's that, like you shared, that moment when they surprise themselves. That's the best.
Yeah.
I am, if it's okay to mention, I am teaching a big workshop, my first big one.
When and where?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
It's October next year, so October 2026.
Okay.
At Artist Rising. And
where is that?
That's Connecticut.
Yeah. That's where I painted the camper.
Ah, very nice at Pat's.
Yeah.
Yes, very nice.
And I had a pretty general idea of what I was going to teach before I went to France, but now I have the whole I have everything planned out in my head because I want to recreate my residency.
Yeah.
But on a more approachable, I won't say a smaller scale, but in a little bit of a different twist on it so that it can be approachable for anybody who doesn't have any block printing experience.
Right.
But I loved what I did there and I loved all the pieces that I did. So that's my goal. So
I love it. Yeah. Sign me up. I'm going to, is it live yet?
It is. It's on the website.
Awesome.
Are we back to back?
We are.
Yeah. Cause
okay.
I'm
so
teaching
come for
there.
Lori and then stay for mine.
Yeah, got it. I'll do a residency. I'll do a residency with Lori and with Diane. So that's for everyone out there.
Lovely,
we can go to,
lovely.
and it's a gorgeous space in Connecticut.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Oh, that is going to be incredible. That's going to be incredible. Oh, what a neat
opportunity. Far enough away. I feel like I can, I want to kind of work on a couple projects and get people excited. And
yeah.
So
Oh, incredible.
Fun.
So the work that you started in France, and you said you're continuing the practice. Are you continuing it? Are you going to plan to show it or?
So the great thing about the residency, the other great thing is that Beulah, one of the founders, she owned a gallery in Hong Kong, and so she sits down and she gives like advice on how to approach a gallery, how many pieces you need. So she has a whole afternoon called the business of art. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had never thought I would want a gallery show ever. Like that never crossed my mind because, I'm not an artist. And
Yes, you are. Yes, you
I
are.
Clearly, I am now.
Yeah.
And so I don't have enough work right now. And some of the pieces that I finished at the chateau were really kind of, in my mind, I don't want to say a prototype, but I worked through the creative obstacle that I had. And so now I want to create it in a bigger, better way. So right now I'm working on pieces with the idea that yes, I will, once I get enough pieces together, then I will spend a fortune in having them framed and then approach some galleries.
That
Oh,
sounds amazing.
that's exciting.
So yeah, it's kind of
Amazing.
scary. So now I've said it. So now I will hold myself accountable.
We're all going to
Yeah,
hold you
yeah.
accountable because
It's
we
out in
want to
the
see your
universe
beautiful
now.
work.
I
Yes,
know.
Careful
yes.
what you put out there.
I know.
Well, you're incredible. I think it's so interesting. You're this beautiful artist. I mean, I watched you create stuff and paint stuff when we were together last September and like whips out flowers and whips, I'm like, what do you mean you're not an artist? And you went to school for fashion, but also art and had this brilliant career. And it's funny what we tell ourselves sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And
Totally.
and it's like, no, we're all creative. We're all artists. We're all
Mhm.
in our own way, but you are really and truly an artist. She's incredible. If you ever watch her work, it's amazing.
Well,
Amazing.
I am proud to identify as an artist now.
Yes.
I get where you were coming from though, because when I was at the residency, I felt like everybody had a real serious meaning behind their work. And my work tends to just be happy, colorful flowers. But the thing that happened there is I was supported for that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I went in feeling like, oh, I'm not like them. I don't have as much meaning to my work. And they were like, joy is a meaning, and that's what your
Yeah.
work brings. So yeah, that support that you got there too is, I know it's another part of the puzzle.
Are you going to go back?
I want to.
Yeah,
I
me
want
too.
to go. I need to apply. Will they take photographers? Do they take
Yeah. Oh
photographers?
yeah, there was a photographer in the group when I went.
I need to apply. I would love to go. I mean, I think what you said though is so important, even if your residency is just something that you carve out for yourself and you set time aside for yourself in the quiet and the
Mhm.
space. I think that's a really important lesson to have.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
friends who they take themselves on a residency. They'll like rent out a cabin somewhere in the woods and just go for even a couple days and
Yeah, well,
just
I want to go
create.
with the chefs and the
I know.
I mean, that sounds nice.
I may or may not have gained 6 pounds from the amount of croissants and desserts that I ate.
Oh my God. It sounds
Yep.
amazing. It sounds amazing. Well, Diane, one of the things that we love to ask our guests, have you been given advice or do you like to give advice to maybe some of your students that we could share with our listeners?
I don't. Well, advice I give to my students is that nobody's grading you. Like
Yeah.
this is just play, right?
Yeah.
But I do think there are two quotes that I really resonate with me. One, I have said to myself over and over again for I don't know how long. And that one, and I don't know who said this, so probably somebody who's like an inspirational speaker, I'm going to guess, but I have no idea where I heard it. And
I'll look it up.
okay, opportunities are often lost waiting for perfect conditions. Because, like for instance, when I meet somebody who's they're putting together their website and they're putting together their business, but they haven't taken the leap to take their website live and really like open it up. They're just got the pieces going behind the scenes. I'm like, I hate to tell this to you, but if you make your website live right now, nobody knows.
Right.
Yeah.
So just
Right.
go live.
Yeah.
And you're not famous. I mean,
Right.
Nobody that I'm talking to is famous. Nobody is going to be like, oh my gosh, Diane went live. Like, we found a spelling error.
Yeah.
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 Right.
The phone will not start ringing immediately, usually.
No, so just sort of just jump and do it. And then this one I really like. Ships are safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for.
Ooh, that one gave me chills. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Those are both great.
That's
Those are both great.
one.
Oh,
I may have to use that in my words and wildflowers. That's
I love
It's a good one because, it's just, take the risk.
Yeah.
Take the risk. And I love that you took the risk and you went to France, and we love that you took the risks all the way along, and you're an incredible artist.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much.
We're so glad you were here, friend.
I miss you guys. We got to get together and make art again.
We will. And we hope that our listeners will certainly follow. We'll have all Diane's links. You must follow her and see her new work that she did in France, because it's absolutely stunning. So thank you all. Peace, love, and ReBloom. Life is too short not to follow your passions. So go out there and let your heart plant you where you are meant to be and grow your joy.
We will be right here sharing more incredible stories of reinvention with you. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode of ReBloom.
Until next time, I'm Jamie Jameson.
And I'm Lori Siebert.
Peace, love, and ReBloom, dear friends.